I am Sean Webb, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, this is Zach Poitras, and this is Your Superior Self.
I'm Andy Mant, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, this is Sue Jackson, and this is Your Superior Self.
I'm Ginni Saraswati, and this is Your Superior Self.
What's up, everybody? I'm Aubrey Marcus, and this is Your Superior Self.
What is up, Superior Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Your Superior Self. I'm Trey Downs, and it's early where I'm at. I'm watching the sunrise right now. I'm listening to the birds chirp, drinking my first cup of coffee. I just got done meditating and stretching, and I feel wonderful. And I believe 100% that this type of self-care helps bring forth the best version of yourself for your kids, for your spouse, for everyone. It's how you present yourself to the day. How do you get the best version of yourself started right? And I have a wonderful conversation with today's guest, Ginni Saraswati, about that. I'm a huge believer in starting the day off right. And these small wins, I guess you can say, really help us get motivated to be the best versions of ourselves right out of the gate. I get up early and I go for a run to get those endorphins flowing and come back, stretch, meditate, so I can tackle the day and feel good. It does wonders. I've done both. So I've set my alarm and gotten up and brushed my teeth and headed out the door, and I didn't feel any positivity as I was getting dressed or rushing to work. But when I changed it and I got up earlier and I started doing these things that made me feel good, it changed the game for me. It changed my life. It changed my perspective. And it's so important. I even have a little clip for you from Ginni Saraswati on the subject of self-care.
So this year I've gone really deep into my morning rituals. On my podcast, The Ginni Show, I'm fascinated by people's morning rituals. And it's just because I love seeing how people start their day, because I find you learn a lot about someone when you ask them about their morning rituals, purely because you can see how nourished, how fulfilled, how happy they are by their morning rituals, right? So, for example, when I ask people, what is your morning ritual? And they'll say to me, I do this, and then I start work, or then I make breakfast, or then I see my kids. You know that they're putting themselves first in some way. But those who go straight into, I'm going to cook breakfast for my kid, or I'm going to do something for my husband or my wife or my spouse, whatever it might be. It's really fascinating to me that, they eventually in the trajectory of the conversation, they'll say to me that they feel like depleted or burnt out. So they're putting themselves last, essentially. So you learn so much about people's morning routines, which is why I'm so fascinated about them. But going back to your question, Trey, my morning routine is something that I do most days. On the day where things go smoothly, it's...
Yeah, so in order to hear Ginni's morning routine, you're going to have to find it in the interview. Yeah, little teaser there for you. But for those who do not know who Ginni is, she's an award-winning journalist known to stun many personality with her quick-witted introductions and on-air antics. She is the CEO of Ginni Media, which is a boutique podcast production company serving the vision of entrepreneurs, celebrities, and influential organizations around the world, specializing in podcast production and content repurposing. They provide a concierge-style service to ensure your voice is literally being heard where it needs to be. I had an amazing conversation with Ginni. And if you like what you hear in this interview, please go over to Ginni's podcast, which is titled The Ginni Show, Curry, Comedy, and Connectivity, where she invites listeners to follow her hilarious journey, and where she, this is amazing, and where she has guest appearances from her aunties and 170 cousins, and just throw in some celebrities in there too. which makes for an interesting show. But check her out over there, subscribe to her, leave her a rating and a review, and let her know that you heard her first on Your Superior Self and that you loved her content and that you want to find out more about her. She's big time. She's big time. She's hilarious. I love this conversation because it's just open and free and authentic, and these are the kind of conversations that I'm looking for to help you guys spark some interest and curiosities about other people's paths and maybe help find yours in the way. So, but before I get into the conversation, make sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating and a review wherever you get your podcast from. It helps me scale. And you can follow me on all social media, TDowns80 on Instagram and DownsTrey on Twitter. And please don't forget to go to yoursuperiorself.com. Leave me a message. I just changed it up a bit over there, just having some fun, being creative. Let me know what you think about the new website. So without further ado, here is my conversation with the great Ginni Saraswati. Ginni from the block. What is going on? How are you?
I wish I was that cool to be from the block, but when I say such cool lingo, people are like, "You're like from London." I'm like, "No, I'm not."
You're from London. Like, people say that?
Some people think I'm British. Some people also think I'm
Well, clear that up right now for my listeners. Where are you from?
Well, this adorable accent hails from Melbourne, Australia. So that's where I grew up for most of my life. I actually was born in a little island off the coast of India called Sri Lanka. And my family migrated to Australia when I was 2, hence the adorable accent that I'm talking to you with, Trey.
That is awesome. And New Zealand is not in Australia.
No, New Zealand is like what Canada is to America.
I saw a sticker the other day that said that. It was like, New Zealand is not in Australia. I just thought that was funny. I had to say it. You're from Australia.
Exactly.
So you're the CEO of Ginni Media. How's that going?
Yeah, it's going pretty well. I think it's the bravest, boldest, scariest, rewarding thing I've ever done. Because I used to work at a manufacturing plant building 787 Dreamliner wings for Boeing.
Really? Like the assembly line, that type of thing?
I was in the manufacturing line. We actually built wing components in Melbourne, Australia. There was a factory, and that was, I mean, the job was great. It paid well. It was, it was interesting because you get to build machines that fly in the air, right? However, it wasn't fulfilling me. And I know this sounds cliche when people say that, but I had an appreciation for that because, I was able to do what I had to do till I could do what I wanted to do. And this is what I want to do full time. I don't see myself doing anything else. However, it has been scary, rewarding, fulfilling, messy, magnificent. It's been all these sorts of things. So I hope that answers your question, Trey.
Yeah. So how do you go from that to what you're doing now? Like what's your background? I mean, did you go to college? How did you manage to become a CEO? How do you go from frontline to CEO?
I've had a very interesting career. I think I'm the only person in my immediate family who's actually worked for more than one company. I know my dad worked for one company all his working life in Australia. My sister has worked for the one company all her working life in Australia. And my mother worked for one company in Australia, and that was it. So I'm from a family of very loyal workers to their company, which is a fantastic trait to have if you can have that loyalty and dedication to what you want to do. So my background, I did go to college, Trey. I actually went to university, or uni as we call it in Australia. I went to uni and studied creative arts and radio broadcasting, which is my background. And then I went into radio advertising, and I worked for a few commercial networks. And then I realized that I am not a natural salesperson when I'm selling something I don't particularly know about or believe in. Radio ads, I get you need them for radio stations to exist. I knew that was a purpose. However, I wasn't a very good account manager. I was not a very good employee. And I don't think I was living my purpose there too. So I just found myself in that 9-to-5 grind, but I wasn't, it wasn't 9 to 5 for me. It was 9 to 7. It was 9 to 10 sometimes because I had to take work home with me. And I didn't particularly have a balance then. So that's how I moved into manufacturing, because I can't take airplane wing homes with me, Trey. I can't put them on the top of my car and drive home. So it was a great way to leave work at work, but yet do something that, paid the bills and did well for me. And it allowed me to kind of pursue my passions on the side.
That's nuts. That's crazy. Radio to like assembly line, putting wings on airplanes. That's nuts. Like, did you ever think about that? Like, it's got to be kind of cool at first, being like, yeah, I'm putting these huge mechanical objects on, help build those things. But after a while, I mean, you're essentially, it gets very, very repetitious, and it's kind of like, you're a cog in this big machine, I guess. Yeah. I mean, for someone like you who's very outgoing and very, I feel your energy. I don't see you working in a manufacturing plant, I guess, but it did what it was supposed to do, right? It was a stepping stone for where you are today.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's essentially, I think a lot of people can relate to that. But was there like a moment, can you remember the moment where you're like, I'm definitely not meant for this?
There were a few moments, Trey, not just one. I'm a big believer in, your culture and your people are what drive your success in a business. And what I mean by that is, everything that the employees talk about, the energy that they bring to work, the conversations that they have. Is it about, happy things? Is it about what are the contents of those conversations? If it's generally positive and if it's generally quote unquote high vibrational, 95% of the time you'll know that those employees, one, they're happy there, like they're happy to be there, they're present, and they're focusing on their job. So the more that I think, when you look at employees, the more that they can build their culture to a point where you can just focus on what you have to do, rather than complaining about what you have to do and complaining about management. I think there's more success there. So I didn't like getting caught up in the politics or the negativity, because, when we hang around people who are negative, even if we're not naturally negative, it just, just does rub off on you.
It's contagious, 100%. But like, to step out on your own and create your own media company, I mean, that's a big leap. I mean, how did you prepare yourself? Like, did you, have a plan? Did you save money, get like a little nest egg, and then it was like, see ya?
Well, I actually, on the side of doing my full-time job, so when I was working in radio, when I was working in manufacturing, I did, I did podcast producing and radio hosting on the side. I was just trying to figure out, okay, what does this mean? I love doing it, clearly. With radio hosting, I had a breakfast show in Australia on and off for 10 years. So that meant I had to get up at ridiculous times in the morning to go to the radio station. But yet, even though I wasn't paid for it, I still did it because that's how much I loved it. So I knew, okay, there is something coming with this. I just have to keep doing what I'm doing. I love this. And as a consequence of being in radio, I fell into podcasting in Australia. I started my own podcast. And then from there, I had people approach me going, can you show me how to do this? And that, as a consequence, was how I fell into podcast producing and built Ginni Media as a result. So that was when I knew, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. And I think there is a deeper meaning to what I do. I think we're more than just a podcast production company. What you were saying before, Trey, about connections and podcasts and these conversations being more important than ever, I wholeheartedly agree, because now, unlike 20, 30 years ago, I believe everyone has a microphone. Now, I know you and I are literally sitting in front of microphones here, but I think everyone does have a microphone, but not everyone has the confidence to turn it on, pick it up, and talk. I think some people are happy to pass that microphone on to someone else to have them share their story. But my job, I feel, as a podcast producer is to coach people to say, hey, you've got a microphone, you've got a story. Let's turn that microphone on and let's share that story through the ears of people into their hearts and into their minds. Let's do that. So I think that's what we actually do at Ginni Media.
So you're a podcasting coach.
Yes, that is a part of what I do as well, because I guess in some style of podcast, there is an element of conversation and people like to know, okay, what do I start with? How do I end this? How do I ask questions? So I guess that's where my radio background comes in, where I can help, show people how to interview. Yes, it's actually a really bizarre thing, Trey, when you have to teach people or show people how to talk to other people. And that's what I find
easy for some people. Like, it's not.
I get it. I get it. It's not easy for some people, but I that's also what I find particularly hilarious, because some like people who, speak for a living or do these incredible things outside in the real world come to me going, I'm a little shy to talk. I'm like, you talk for a living, dude. It's like, yeah, but it's a little bit like it's in front of a microphone now. And I find I have a little bit of a chuckle because I think imposter syndrome always shows up on time with these scenarios.
Yeah. I mean, I was the first couple of podcasts I had like a little script. I was just like in the interview being like, so what would your 16-year-old self say to you? I mean, just dumb stuff, right? Just like it didn't hit me that, in order to make podcast work, you have to have like a true connection with your interview and you need to kind of connect with them on a whole different level. And you have to be involved like in the interview, like conversation. Like you can't just have a set of questions. Like I can't just have a piece of paper and I might have some background information on you, but I'm not going to script out the interview because like there's no connection there, right? Like people who are listening to this right now, my audience want to feel like they're in a conversation, right? Like not a one way, me asked you ABC and then you just spit back random generic questions or answers to me, right? Like it wants to feel like a raw conversation, like a real truly connection. Like it's, and we might mess up and say things that aren't correct, but it's like they want to feel that authenticity.
Absolutely.
Like
absolutely.
That's why I love the free flow of this, right? Like I mean I come in some of these, it depends on the person though. Like sometimes if I get like really, really into like a guest, like I have Aubrey Marcus coming on next week, right?
Nice.
And
good company to keep.
And I feel like a stalker almost, like just because I want to know everything about this guy. So that way, when I do have an interview with him, it's kind of like, that might open the door for other things too. You never know. However, I try to do some basic research, and this is something you can take back to your mentees for podcasters, but I try to do like a baseline, research, whatever that may be, background on somebody, just so I can have, something to talk about. I mean, once you find that subject that you guys can relate on, I mean, you can talk about anything, right?
100%. I think that's the true power of podcasting and connection, really, because I think there is at some point where we can uniquely see people as human or see them in a way that we haven't seen them before. And I know that sounds cheesy, but that point of connection is really the conversation starter, right? With anything. That point of connection where you can relate, where you can connect, and where you can empathize, that is that point where the conversation gets going.
I mean, that's crazy. Think that you have some clients that are speakers for a living, and then to put some mic in front of them and then they freeze. It's
nuts. Yeah, that's why I have a bit of a chuckle, because I'm like, you are magnificent. But goes back to what I was saying. We're human, right? We have human experiences, and a part of human experiences is feeling like we're not good enough, that we cannot do something, that fear kicks in, right? So when you see people out there, overachievers, high achievers doing their thing, and you give them a microphone and like a setup, they're like, whoa, what's this? So, it's just also, I think people, when you think about podcasting, it is such an intimate platform. And I was taught about this about radio too, because people listen to podcasts firstly by themselves. It's not something that you do on a Friday night with popcorn and, you invite your friends over and like, hey, let's all listen to a podcast. It doesn't really happen that way. People listen by themselves, and you're literally in someone's ear. Like you're literally in someone's ear. And think about the people that you let that close to in your life. Like who do you let right up in your ear? So it's a very intimate medium. And I think that's also another part of how impactful it is. And also probably why people get a little bit freaked out. It's like, oh, what if I sound this way? Or what if my voice is funny? So yeah. Or what if I sound British?
That's how I was. I was like, because like I pronounce I mispronounce words all the time. And it's like, I say things that aren't correct. And, I try to just be authentic. It's who I am, and people want to be, near that. They want to feel they want to know, like they want to feel like they know me, right? They want to feel, I mean, like my favorite podcasts, like I know, Joe Rogan's one of one of my unofficial mentors. Like I listen to everything he does because I love the way that he talks. I love the way that he has a conversation. And I try to kind of feel that and go off of that in my episodes, because I just love it, man. Like, I went to a conference. My brother Joe has a conference called Complicated Conversations, and he had the original founder of TED, Richard Saul Wurman, and he had Stephen Kotler there. And the most fascinating part of that entire conference is when they had two couches on stage and they just had a conversation, like just freestyle. And it was the most amazing, most influential conversation I've ever heard. And it was, you couldn't plan that. And I'm looking at your website now. I mean, you got some pretty legit podcasts you're helping out with. So explain that. So you help people with podcasts, right? You help them scale, you help them, you coach them, you give them resources, and what other services do you provide?
So essentially, when someone comes to me saying, I want to start a podcast, I offer everything from conception to launch, and then services beyond the launch. So ongoing production services. So think of Ginni Media as your outsourced podcasting team. So we do all your audio editing, we write your show notes, we do artwork for social media, and we do distribution as well. So we make sure literally that
everything you do everything that a podcaster does. Like you, seriously.
Exactly. So literally what we like to do is, depending on how hands-on you'd like us to be, we can literally send you to a studio and have you record everything. So you just literally focus on having the conversation. To we just do everything after the recording. So you send us the files and then we do everything else. We'll make sure the podcast goes out on time. So
do you edit it as well?
Yeah, we do audio editing. Absolutely.
So how many people are on your team?
So I have a team of 8 part-time to full-timers, and then I have another 6 contractors. So we have a team of 14 at the moment, and we're growing, which is very exciting, and it just is a testament to how powerful the medium of podcasting is.
How many podcasts do you have? Sorry, how many podcasts do you have right now?
Sorry,
can you hear me?
Yep, sorry, you cut out there. How many podcasts do I what?
Yeah, how many podcasts do you guys have right now that you're helping out with?
So we are currently doing, I think it was 45 the other day. We've produced over 75 to date, but currently we have 45 that we're producing.
That's amazing.
That's pretty cool.
So what's your biggest lesson? I mean, going into that CEO role, like what has been the biggest learning? I don't want to say, I don't want to say failure, but like what has helped you get to where you're at now?
I would say the fact that I am hyper aware that I am the kind of person who stumbles through things. And by that, I mean, Trey, that I understand that I am not perfect. And I understand that the way that I learn best is through action. And through stumbling action. And by that meaning that I don't always get it right. And I am hyper aware of that. And I think what I encourage with myself, with my loved ones, even with my team is 100% accountability. If I'm expecting my team to do something as a CEO, if I'm expecting a certain level of customer service, I have to walk that walk if I'm talking that talk. I see so many leaders and have experienced so many leaders who say one thing, but they do another. And that automatically creates a mistrust. And I think that is where a lot of companies fail in their leadership. And I think also as a CEO, I know that I'm working for my team. It's not the other way around. And I think if you keep, again, it's about that culture thing. You know, if my employees can be happy enough and feel happy enough to know that, okay, I'm coming to work today and just focusing on podcasts because I'm pretty happy about, you know, what I do, you know, that's a key cornerstone to culture building. It's just that happiness factor. And I have to really constantly do work on myself daily to make sure that I am doing what I say.
Well, like what? Like what do you do daily? What are some of your rituals?
So this year I've gone really deep into my morning rituals. On my podcast, The Ginni Show, I'm fascinated by people's morning rituals. And it's just because I love seeing how people start their day, because I find you learn a lot about someone when you ask them about their morning rituals, purely because you can see how nourished, how fulfilled, how happy they are by their morning rituals, right?
Mhm.
So, for example, when I ask people, what is your morning ritual? And they'll say to me, I do this, 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 and then I start work, or then I make breakfast, or then I see my kids. You know that they're putting themselves first in some way. But those who go straight into, I'm going to cook breakfast for my kid, or I'm going to do something for my husband or my wife or my spouse, whatever it might be, it's really fascinating to me that, you know, they eventually in the trajectory of the conversation, they'll say to me that they feel like depleted or burnt out. So they're putting themselves last, essentially. So you learn so much about people's morning routines, which is why I'm so fascinated about them. But going back to your question, Trey, my morning routine is something that I do most days. On the day where things go smoothly, it's I wake up, brush my teeth, put a bit of cleanser on my face, and then I journal for half an hour. And then I start like my morning prayers, and then I read a few passages from Ian Levansan's book. I read Holy Shift. I do some gratitude practice, and I also think about intentionally how I want to experience this day, how I want to show up in this day, what I want to give to others, what I'd like to receive. And then I kind of read some affirmations, and I do some chanting and some meditation, and then you know, I go for a walk and get my coffee, and then phone's on and off we go. That's my morning routine. And I love it. Thank you for reacting that way. I generally get one of two reactions. One is, I love it. This is inspiring. I'm going to do it. The other reaction is, you're nuts. Like that's a long list to get through. And I'm like, well, you know what? That's for me. That list is for me. And that's how I start my day. And it's how I do self-care. Because without self-care, I can't have the foundation to do anything else. And that's what I practice in my team.
Do you do it 7 days a week?
I do it 7 days a week. The weekends looks different because I don't have to rush as much because there's obviously everyone, it's the weekend, everyone's off. But I practice doing this 7 days a week, yes.
The meditation part, like describe your meditation practice. Are you doing like the Muse headband? Are you doing like the focusing on your breath? Or are you doing like the Zen meditation where you try to block out all your thoughts?
I do guided meditations. As someone who gets excited very easily and gets distracted very easily, it can be good. Yeah, exactly. I was just looking at, we literally have a squirrel outside. I was just looking at a little squirrel. So I was there, literally, it's one of those things, Trey, that it's a constant practice. I think I'm getting better with practice, but I'm still like, squirrel, what do I have with my coffee? And should I get this for breakfast? Like all these thoughts pop into my mind, but it is very much my connection to myself and also a way to download my thoughts and understand how I'm feeling. And this way, like I can come back to this place of stillness of when things happen during the day. I'm not as reactive because I'm like, hang on, I've taken care of myself first. I can breathe into this. And it's amazing.
I love that. Meditation's hard. It's hard for me. But have you ever gotten to a place in meditation where you felt like the energy rise up to like your heart, right? Like, and just it radiates.
Oh, yes.
Oh man, that is
that's just, isn't it? And it's like you get goosebumps and it's like something is charged within you. And that's a miraculous feeling, really. There's no other way to describe it.
What time do you get up?
Generally during the week, Trey, I'm up at 5:30. 5:30, 5:45, that's the time. I just love waking up and hearing the quiet because the rest of the world.
It is amazing. It's my favorite time. Like it's like, and people think I'm crazy when I say this, but I get up at 4:15 and I go for a either 4, 6 or 8 mile run. And I will come back, I will meditate, I will stretch, I will get my mind right, and then go upstairs and do like my cold shower ritual, and then go to work and get ready, get my mind straight. But during that time, it's like, I don't know what it is, but it's like no wind. It's like not that cold, and it's like so quiet. Like, and I live, I don't live out in the boonies. I don't live out in the woods, but it's like, even with the highway, like 95 is a stone's throw away from our development. It's like, it's so quiet. It's amazing. Yeah. It's like it's like the sun's coming up, and it's just like the world is waking up, and it's like your time to be next to the universe and be in it and with your thoughts. And I love it. It's like, it's so game changing for me.
Absolutely. And it's such a nourishing practice for anything that you do. I think people are like, they look at self-care and they look at that solace time as something that's deeply selfish.
Mhm.
But I actually feel it is the foundation of being able to, one, show up as a good human being, show up with taking care of yourself first, and being able to serve and be of some form of value to others when you take care of you.
Well, you can't be the best version of yourself, right? Like you have to do those things to kind of, fighting that resistance. It's like that resistance that is just trying to take you down and beat you down. And like, you're in the bed and it feels good and it's warm. And it's like, you're not getting up. Like, don't get up today. Don't do it. Like, you don't need to. And it's like, you know what? I'm getting up. Like, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to run and I'm going to do what I got to do. And it's like that win is just, it changes your day. That W, that overtaking the enemy that is resistance. But I always thought, growing up, like I was just lazy. Like I wasn't able to like make it an external enemy. Like I didn't think of resistance as an actual thing, like a negative force that comes after you. Right. Like I always thought it was, I'm lazy, I guess. I don't like to go run. I don't like to get up. I don't like to do that.
Yeah.
No, it's a real thing. Like resistance is a real thing. And once I was able to take my mind and vision that, like, it was a game changer, because now I'm like, you know what, resistance does not get me. And that's what helps me get up at 4:15. It's like resistance is not going to win the day.
No, it's resistance and also all the other things that say no, because I think the fact that I've been doing this, what are we now? Like we're recording this on February 20th.
Mm-hmm.
I've experienced days without this, and I've only been doing this morning routine realistically, yes, every day this year, but I really been tweaking it over probably later 2019. I've been really thinking about morning routines. But my morning routine a year and a half ago, Trey, was I woke up, brushed my teeth, got dressed, walked to the cafe, ordered my coffee, sat down, opened my computer. That was my morning routine. And I notice a world of difference having a routine and starting the day for me. Because that's the one part of the day, no matter what happens, I know I've served myself first.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I've done a lot of self-development here lately, and it's that I think we just always, especially those who want to get better and grow as individuals, like we just, right now we think we're the best that we're ever going to be. And it's not true. Like 10 years from now, I want to be so different than what I am now. However, like 5 years ago, like I couldn't imagine myself getting up and doing this. Like, I'm like, are you kidding me? But now it's like, I can't live without it, because there is a difference. Like I just feel so much more energetic, so much more powerful. And for those who don't have one right now, like I would highly suggest you picking up something, whether that's getting up, a half hour before you have to get up and doing some sit-ups or push-ups, or reading a book, or journaling, like you said, or affirmations and gratitude practices, like anything to get that ball rolling in the direction of positivity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is a game changer.
What about diet? What about that?
That has been a constant refinement / battle for me, Trey. And I'm going to say battle in past tense, because I feel that now I've achieved my state of flow and balance with that. I always grew up as a heavier kid. And, when I went into my early 20s, I was heavy, and I had a really toxic relationship. And when I broke up with my then girlfriend, I went on this strict, I went on the healthiest health kick I've been on, right? I was eating the right foods. I had a personal trainer. I was the leanest and the smallest I'd ever been. However, I didn't feel small. I still felt like I was when I started. I think I was 75 kilos, right? That's how big I felt. Even when I was at my leanest, I was saying to my trainer, I'd love to look like her. And she's like, you're smaller than her. I'm like, really? So this body dysmorphia just stayed with me. And I also realized at that time, my intent for training was around physicality. And also the emotional, I guess, driver behind that intent was revenge. I just wanted to kind of prove to my ex-girlfriend, hey, this is what you're missing out on. Even though I never saw her, in my head, that's how my mentality was.
Sure.
And actually, when your self-care or some form of looking after your body and diet and whatever you're eating, when that is based on something that is not rooted in love or something that is rooted in habit or practice or that intent to want to be better and take care of yourself, you find that you just fall back into your old habits again, because there's no habits really do define us. So my habits, even though I went to the gym and all that sort of thing, my mentality was not there to the point that it is now. And as you said, you know, the person I was 10 years ago, I'm not the person that I was 10 years ago. I'm a completely different person. But now I've also found with diet, for me, it is, I don't deprive myself of, you know, if my friends want to go out for pizza on Saturday, we'll go out for pizza. Like, I'm not going to not have pizza. Whereas, you know, 10 years ago, I would not even have pizza. I would completely be like, no. And that's where you spring back. So I'm just hyper aware again of, okay, well, during the week, I'm going to eat really clean. I'm going to make sure that, you know, I don't have sweets or sugar or whatnot. It's like an 80-20 thing, right? On the weekend, okay, I'll have pizza. So Sunday, I'll just have a juice in the morning and eat a little better. Like, it's just knowing what you're putting into your body. And you also know how you feel when you put into your body, you know, okay, I'm going to do better. And as I've been doing that, I think I've still got a goal of losing another 40 pounds. But, you know, in the last month and a half, I've lost 10 pounds just watching, not really strictly dieting, but just, you know, making better choices around what I'm putting into my body. So that's a long-winded way of saying that's my diet. Trey.
You know what? You should try. I've been messing with intermittent fasting. So people are like, what, you starve yourself? And I'm like, well, yes, but you don't get it, right? So if you think about it, like all the way back to our hunter-gatherer days, like the science behind it, right? Like, I mean, we, back in the day, we didn't eat 3 meals a day. Like, I mean, we were killing things and eating. And if we had it enough for 2 days, we'd eat for 2 days, and then we might not eat for another 2 days. It's just like our bodies are not, they didn't evolve to eat 3 meals a day. It wasn't until like the agricultural revolution that we invented farming. And then that's when we started eating 3 meals a day. Breakfast, I always say it weird like that now because I actually know the meaning, but breakfast means break fast. And it can actually be any part of the day. When, you know, it's when the advertisers and the marketers got a hold of it back in the day. That's when they made breakfast like a thing. And people were like, it's the most important part of the day. Yeah, it's the most important part of the day because you're breaking your fast. It doesn't have to be in the morning. But anyway, I do like once a week, I'll do like a 24-hour fast, just to usually on a Monday to kind of clean my system up, to, you know, get rid of all that junk that's in my gut. Cause like, you know, the sugar, and I have 3 kids. So it's like, you know, I'm definitely snacking on some goldfish and graham crackers and things like that. And I'll have some juice boxes every now and then. And like, I have to fast to get all that junk out of me. But I find it, if I fast for 24 hours and then the rest of my week, I'll do like an 18-hour fast. Like it helps me so much. Like I don't feel like that hangry stuff anymore. Because I stay away from the sugars. I try really hard to stay away from the sugars and the glucose and sometimes carbs. But the fasting has helped me get rid of that. Like I remember like by 11 o'clock, I'm like getting ready to punch somebody because like I'm so hungry. You know what I mean? Like I'm just, I don't feel that anymore. Like I'll drink my black coffee in the morning and I'll have lunch by like 1 and I'm good. And then I'll eat dinner and then I'll stop and then I'll do it again the next day. But then like on my Monday mornings, what I'll do is I'll have an early dinner, like at 6 o'clock on a Sunday, and I won't eat until 6 o'clock the following evening. And it's weird. Like I can feel the difference. Like it's so weird though, because like when I get like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock into that next day, like my energy levels go up. It's weird. It's like, wow. I feel so like you have to try it. Like read this book. It's called Eat, Stop, Eat. And it has a ton of science behind it and some of the crazy diets that we've come to know and love and some of the science that, you know, basically debunks them. But I think fasting is the way to go because that's how our bodies evolved, right? Like, I mean, we never had 3 square meals. I mean, we have this overabundance of freaking food, you know, and we have fast food restaurants everywhere. Like our body is never not digesting something.
Exactly.
And, you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like, I don't know. It makes you look at the science and you look at the facts. And I think fasting is the way to go. Sorry, that's a long answer to what I do, but
no, No, I have tried intermittent fasting, but I didn't do it properly. I took it as permission to, again, this is where habits weren't formed. I took it as permission to eat how much I wanted in that, 8-hour window. But now, like, I do appreciate sometimes, like, I try to stop eating before 6. And by the next day, I'll have my breakfast like at 9 after I do my morning routine and get my coffee. So,
Sure.
That's still a good, 15 hours I have a break from eating. And that
Try
really
the
does.
24 hours just once. Just do it like 6 o'clock, like on a Sunday or whatever. Just for example, 6 o'clock on a Sunday till 6 o'clock. That way you're not eating, right? Like, I mean, you're not eating, but you're not going a day without eating. You know what I mean? Some people are like, I'm getting up today, I'm not eating. I don't think that's healthy. I think it's if you space it out enough where you're eating every day, but just 24 hours spaced out. It's done wonders for me. Like, seriously. I mean, I feel so much more energetic. I just feel better. My brain is, I used to get brain fog and, that leaky gut crap. And it just, the inflammation, right? Like the inflammation in your gut spreads it throughout and you get, the brain fog is a terrible thing. The science that's coming out about intermittent fasting is just fascinating. We're just learning more about it. We've been doing it for years. centuries, but yet nobody's really, gotten behind it because it doesn't make money. You don't sell anything on that, right? They're not. Jenny Craig's not selling intermittent fasting.
No. It's like, I'm not selling you anything. Just don't eat.
Yeah, don't eat.
Exactly.
Don't eat.
That's all you really can sell from that. It's that one simple instruction.
I mean, it's tough. You're in New York, so it's like, you got all that great food up there, right? Like,
Exactly. All the great pizza.
I know. Pizza's great up there. I love it. What's your favorite pizza spot?
Here, it's actually a place called La Bella Pizzeria in Long Island City. That is my favorite. It's actually the best pizza I've had in New York since I've been here. And even before I was here, that was a place I'd go to. Like, even if I stay in the city, I'd take the subway over to Queens and have that slice. It's a great, great spot. It's just amazing.
That's awesome. So what's your goal now? Like, what do you want to do? Like, I'm looking at your website. It's legit. Ginni Media. Like, what is your goal? Like, what do you want to do?
I want to inspire connection with people. And just exactly what this conversation is. I just want to inspire connection. And that connection is, as I was saying before, that's the first point. But that comes from a conversation, right? So it starts with a conversation, then the connection comes. And, I think the more that we can have conversations with people, we can walk away and do something different, or we can walk away forever changed from that conversation because we've learned something about someone, we've connected in a way. So podcasting are conversations at scale when you think about it. Like, they really are. The conversations at scale, they're informative, they're entertaining, whatever, purpose you listen to podcasts for. So the ability to hear other people's stories, the ability to connect in a way, I think it's going to be super important, especially as we get into this world of hustle and bustle and, remote working and that sort of thing. That one-on-one FaceTime is going to be missing. And this is where connection is going to be super important. And I think that's what I want to work on. I don't know what that looks like, Trey. I can't give you like a full picture of a vision, but I want to, one of the things that I want to do, one of my goals is to work towards that. How can we connect people more? How can we get them having conversations? How can we get people listening to each other more? I make a living of people listening. If people don't listen, I don't make a living. But also when I mean listening, I mean truly listening, not waiting for your turn to speak, but truly listening to what that person is saying without projecting your already thoughts that are there. Do you know what I mean? So that's
tough. It's tough.
It's tough.
It's tough to get people to talk because like people don't want to talk. Like, we're humans, right? Like, we're social beings, but like you go on a subway or something like that in New York, like who's talking?
No one's talking.
Nobody's talking.
The people who are doing performances are talking, but that's it.
I've been reading this book called The Third Place, which talks about the third place being. Oh, is it the third place? I think I got it right here. No, I don't have it right here. Where is it at? I don't know. I have a big library behind me. But it's essentially talks about the third place, which is, you got your work, home, and the third place. The third place is where you go for conversation, community, intelligent conversation, that stuff. Right? Like back in the day, Paris used to have they still have cafes, but people would go there, talk politics, talk life. And that's where like the source of the community was. And we're falling out of that. I mean, you see it, Starbucks has created a culture. Like you see a lot of that. People go in there and they work but you don't see a lot of talking. I mean, you see some, but you don't see a whole lot. I'm talking about a place where you go, like, I want to, like, this is my dream, right? I don't say it's my dream, but it's like this idea that I have, a place where I would call it the third place. It would be a local coffee shop, and no devices are allowed. No TVs, no nothing. The only thing you're allowed to do is talk. And I would have library full of stuff, and I would have conversation starters. I would have, the latest tech information, the latest, I don't know about politics. Politics is just so polarizing right now.
Yeah.
But I would have definitely like a huge library and just conversation about like how we evolve, where we come from, where's technology going. Like Uber's coming out with Uber Air. It's going to be insane. But just like you and I are having right now, like just two people who have just met, almost an hour ago, and we're talking about life. Like that is what I'm about.
100%. I co-sign on that. If you need an investor on that third place space, let's talk about it.
That's good to know. I'm going to keep that in my back pocket. How can people connect with you?
You can connect with me. I like emails. I know emails aren't very popular in this generation, but I love email. So you can hit me up at ginni@ginnimedia.com. That's what I like. That's the place I love to connect, because that way we can have long letters that we write to each other, or we can actually converse. Or if you want to hit me up on social, you can reach out to me at Ginni Media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok. We're all there.
Yeah, you better have all of that. I mean, you're a media company. Better have the TikTok.
Yeah, we do.
What do you want your legacy to be, like when it's all said and done with?
That's actually, I've been thinking about that a lot lately, Trey. I haven't.
It's a tough question.
Really,
I mean, because legacy is different though. It's not like, it's like how you want to be remembered for how you lived.
I like to think that I approach life in a way where I have the enthusiasm and the wonder of a 9-year-old child, meaning that when I look at something, it could be for the 10th time I look at it, but I look at it with such excitement, with such wonder. I marvel at it. When someone tells me news, I want to truly feel that joy in that moment and be excited for them. I want to be remembered for, Ginni has this melodic vibration about her where, when you tell her something, you could truly feel that joy. That's, again, like, it's like what you asked me about my goals. That's what I'm seeing at the moment. I haven't seen the bigger picture of how this will project. But that's how I want to be remembered for. Someone who was genuinely excited and genuinely marveled at things in life, because, there's so much we have to be grateful for, and so much, like, even the fact that I am a human being able to afford a microphone and a computer to talk to you means that, I've got a roof over my head. I have my hands and feet are working, or my senses are there. That's enough in itself. That's 5 things already I'm grateful for. And they're things that, a lot of us take for granted. So that's what I really want to remember day to day. I'm going to really think about this after this conversation too, Trey. I'm going to journal. I'm like, what do I want my legacy to be?
That's a tough question. I mean, it's the 9-year-old viewpoint. That's pretty powerful. Because I mean, like, even 9-year-olds, right? Like, they're not afraid to fail because they don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And the courage to go out there and try new things and view it from an innocent 9-year-old standpoint and not be afraid to fail. But I mean, failure is just like proof of action, right? Like, I mean, everyone looks at failure like, oh, I don't want to fail, but it's proof of action. It's just like a learning moment. Like, if you're not failing, you're not doing. And
it's also just that sign, I think, Trey, that we have this sign in Australia. I haven't seen it in New York, but it's like, wrong way, go back. It's just a detour. Like, failure is like, you aren't supposed to be here, so let's try something else. And then eventually you may hit dead ends, but you'll find your highway and you'll cruise.
Growth mindset. We're not yet. Ginni, This has been awesome. I love freestyling with you. I appreciate you coming on the show and hanging out and spreading your love and your energy.
Trey, great to be here. Great conversation, and you've really got me thinking about a few things. So I'm going to go reflect about this. And I'd love to have you on my podcast too. So we'll have to tee that up.
Yeah, anytime. I would love to help you out and, scratch your back.
Let's do it. Hey, do you come to New York often? We should tee it up in the studio in the city.
Absolutely. I'm not up there all the time, but I'm up there, probably every 3 months or so.
Yeah. Please hit me up when you're here next. Love to do a coffee, and we'll actually have a conversation. No devices. We'll talk, and would love to have an interview with you too.
That's awesome. Ginni, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. Guys, check her out at GinniMedia.com, and you guys will love her website. I love the logo. It's amazing.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you to Ginni for coming on the show and hanging out and having a great conversation with us and teaching you guys about morning routines and self-care. Yeah, the babes are up. The children are up. And it's time for me to get out of here. So, guys, thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for all the messages. Thank you for all the ratings. Please keep it up. I love it. I love hanging out with you guys on social media. Follow me on Instagram at TDowns80, on Twitter at DownsTrey, and check me out at yoursuperiorself.com, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great week, and we'll speak. I guess I won't speak, but I'll hit you guys up with another episode next week. Later.